transcription has started. Recording has started. So again, this is the second module. We're going to talk about creating a service plan in this module. How do you do that on a manual basis? I will go into some items on new ways of doing that in a minute. But let me first start creating a service plan as the module in a classic way, because it might help you find out where settings are, let's say, not according to our best practices, etc., etc. Let's create a service plan. What is a service plan again? A service plan is that sellable item that the customer will see and select in your marketplace where he clicks buy. We've got an agenda here where we are going again to define the concepts. We're going to look at the service plan workspace. Where do you find it? What can you see there? And the process of creating the service plans. I'm going to do a little demo. And in the end, we also are going to talk about what the product inventory option gives you and what options that brings. So first of all, the concepts. And we have seen this slide a little bit before at the end of the previous module. Service creation is what we're talking about now. Initially, we were going through that whole process where we have orders, payments, etc., etc. And during this training, we will a little bit follow this process. So now we're talking about service creation. Next module will be we will be talking about order processing. Then we're going to look at payments, etc., etc., etc. That is how I prefer to do the story, because it puts those steps into a logical follow-up perspective. We're not going through the whole flow again. Service creation is the step that we are at this moment. So service creation, again, we're going to look at that dish. A service plan is an offer that adds the quantities, price, and period to a service template. It is what the customer will finally purchase. This is an exact copy of the slide in the previous module. So if you haven't memorized it then, now you can memorize it. Not needed, but you can. So again, what did we need in that whole process? We needed the resources, we needed the service template, we needed a service plan eventually. And that is the end product of our story. Let me add a pen to this. This is the thing that we're going to look at this point, right? The service plan creation. But before that, we need to know where the rest comes from. So this is a one-on-one scenario. We've got some resources, we've got a service template, we've got a service plan. Of course, we can add complexity to this. As a business, we can have as many service templates as we want, and some of them will be quite similar, others will be completely different. An example, for instance, would be the Office 365 or Microsoft 365, I'm not sure how it's called at this moment, service template. Because for Microsoft 365 or Office 365, we have a lot of resources in the hundreds. The thing is that all those resources are dumped into a single service template. And from that service template, we create multiple service plans. Nothing more, nothing less. However, there are other products. Let's say Acronis or Dropbox. Different vendor, different service template, because there are different resources in there. So we can do something with a risotto. The resources are rice, maybe cheese, mushrooms. We can create that risotto here. However, some of those will have the same service template because the same resources are there. And then we can create multiple dishes. The example in this case, we have a service template that has rice as a resource and it has shrimps as a resource. The thing is that that allows us to create two different things. One would be a paella and the other would be a shrimp nigiri, sushi kind of dish, right? So that is what we do. For instance, this part is what we do with Office 365. We've got a huge service template with everything in it, and then we create plans for an E5 or an E3 or business professional, etc., etc. So multiple service plans that are going back to a single service template. And why are those plans different? Because even though they have the same resource basis, the service template, we put in different amounts of specific resources and we add a specific price to it. So the service template just gives me, Office 365 has E5, E1, E3, business professional, business standard, all those licenses are Office 365. And now we're going to sell it and we're going to say, okay, let's say, what are we going to sell? This customer probably wants an E5. That means that he gets one license. He pays for one license E5 and nothing else, and he can add specific resources to his subscription. And then we've got a business professional service plan where the customer buys the number of licenses for business professional only. In the provisioning process, the system is clever and says, okay, if a customer buys this resource, you have to use this service template, but with these amounts. So in the bottom one with the business professional, he will tell, the system will tell Microsoft to hand me 2 licenses of business professional. In this use case, the system will tell Microsoft to provision or to enable an E5 license. So that is how the difference between a service template and a service plan works. That is when it comes to resources and amounts, etc., etc. The thing is that we have more to discuss. There are things like a subscription period. There are terminologies like billing period. What is the difference? Well, the subscription is the contract period. The contract period where the customer will be able to use that chosen service plan. In this case, let's say the customer buys it for a year, so his subscription period is a year, from January till December. In this case, we have a very perfect customer who buys his products on the 1st of January for a year. Another parameter we can set on a service plan is what we call a billing period. That is, how often would that customer pay within that subscription period? So it could be that that customer is paying on a quarterly basis. So he pays for 3 months. In this case, it's set to be paid in arrears. So at the end of the billing period, end of March, he pays for 3 months. End of June, he pays for 3 months. End of September for 3, and end of December for 3 months. But a billing period could also be monthly. So he pays at the end of the month 12 times. Subscription period is the yellow bar. Billing period is the green bar. So let me emphasize that. This is the subscription period, and this is the billing period. We also can discuss what we call a billing model. When is that customer paying? right? I told you here that this is where the customer pays at the end of the month. That's not always logical, right? Sometimes you want customers to pay upfront. So we can do what we call a before subscription period. What does a before subscription period mean? It means that the customer pays for the entire subscription before it started. So if he buys a subscription for a year, he pays the full year upfront. We can also do what we call a before billing period. Before billing period means that a billing period being a month, he pays monthly upfront. So at the beginning of the month, he pays for that month. Next month, he pays again for the next month, etc., etc. And then we can do what we call after billing period. Those are the three possible options that we have setting up a subscription period. These two are what we call prepaid. This one is what we call postpaid at the end of. And there's only one choice there, because you don't want a customer to use the service for a year and then not pay. Right? That's logical. So the postpaid is only per billing period. Of course, you can still say a billing period is a year, but remember that you can lose a lot of money if that customer disappears within that year. You are charged by the vendor and you have nobody to charge to. So postpaid versus prepaid. Most companies use either that one. Let me do that a little bit different. There we go. Most companies use before billing period. Recurring payments over the year at the beginning of the month. It's not mandatory, but that's what I've seen in 12 years experience with this product. Of course, what can we charge? What can we charge the customer for? Well, we can charge what we call a setup fee. It's a one-time fee that could be administrative, could be for actual work that we only charge once when the subscription is created. Let's say it's an onboarding fee. Then we have the recurring payments, those monthly payments that the customer is going to make over time. Monthly payments where the customer is buying, let's say, the next month of use for the system. And we've got a renewal fee. Renewal fee is like a setup fee, but for, I would almost say, the next year of usage. Again, it is not that common to charge for renewal, but there is a possibility, and there might be reasons to do so. There are more fees available. Cancellation fee, for instance, overuse, etc. But these three are the key settings of a plan. Another concept that we might need to explain is categories. And we have two possible setups for categories. We've got what we call plan categories. These are for taxation. So how much do we tax a product in the portfolio of Microsoft Office 365, for instance? How much do we tax backup tools? Key sentence is this one. A service plan can only have one plan category. It's just for automation of tax calculation. The other category is more of a, let's say, sales categorization. So how do we position a product in the marketplace? We call it a sales category. And that means that a plan can be in multiple sales categories. If we, for instance, take an Office 365 subscription, an E5 license could fall under what people call email, because there's a mailbox involved, right? So you put it in email products, but it's also, if we talk about terminology of a couple of years back, online collaboration, because there is some teams involved in E5. So it's also positioned on the page where we have online collaboration products. And it might be in all kinds of other sales categories. And those sales categories we put in the marketplace. So if you want to present a customer with an E5 plan, you have to think about what will he search for in our marketplace? What will he look for in our marketplace in terminology? And if you have multiple options, position that plan in those sales categories and make sure that that plan shows up 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Depending on what the customer chooses, you want him to see the E5 item. So that's the difference between a plan category for taxation and a sales category for positioning in the marketplace. The workspace. And here we have actually 2 spots to look at. Let me first go to my demo environment. Where are we? Give me my mouse back. There we are. Let's start with the classic panel. Service plans, since there is a price involved, you have to go to billing. So let me first go to the right location. Let me do it again. Let me open the classic panel so that you see how it works. I end up in operations. There is no option for service plans. You only see service templates. I go to billing, and under billing, there is a category or an option, a navigation option to go to the service plans scenario. There are multiple tabs. One of them is the plan categories, again, for taxation. The other one is sales categories, where we position them in the online store. And as you see in my sales categories tab, you see that there is also a hierarchy possible, where I first show Microsoft catalog. Then under Microsoft, customers can select other options in there. And we have the service plans. And that's the key thing that we're looking at this moment, the service plans workspace. So that's how you get there. Let me quickly go back to my slides and see what we're talking about. So we have the generic pane where we can see the details with those individual tabs that I've shown you. I didn't cover the last tab yet. I will do that later. We can add new service plan or clone existing ones. If a plan is almost exactly the same as another one, but you want to change one thing, like maybe a billing model or a billing period. For the rest, it should be the same. You can clone. You don't have to go through the steps to create the entire plan again. You can also go through, clone the existing plan, make the change, that one change that you want to do, and save that one as an individual new service plan. There will be no link between those two. So if one branches out somewhere, the other one stays the same. And of course, if you click a service plan, you open the details of that plan. And in that plan, again, you see tabs, all kinds of options, subscription periods. We discussed what are subscription periods. Those are those contract periods. So sometimes you will see only one there. Other times you will see multiple there. Publication settings. Where do you want it published? Or do you want it published in the first place? Do you want it enabled? Or are you still building and testing? And there's more. We will look at them from a demo perspective. On General tab, you see important information like, and I would say this is the key information to know from a service plan perspective. How is this service plan built? This one is charge before subscription period. That means that you prepay the full contract. So if I buy this for 3 years, I pay 3 years upfront. If I cancel, I can, if possible, do a refund, but the customer pays everything up front of the, let's say, the fixed fees. The price that I put in is a monthly price. So if I have a monthly price of $10 and I have a 3-year subscription with charge before subscription period, I have to pay $360 right now if I order it. Key to remember. And $10 for a plan is not that much, but you can imagine what it would do for an Office 365 E5 subscription that has a 3-year prepaid price. It's not cheap. So you have to think about what is good for business. Will people buy it if I charge them like this? If I go into my setup here, and let's say I'm going to use let me see, what is a good one? I have to think about anything that says PRD. I'm not touching because it's a different way of setting those up. I will talk about that a little bit later in this module. If I take the WordPress server, for instance, here, I've got a short summary and a detailed description. In this case, they are the same. This is what the customer will see in the marketplace. What am I buying here? I see who the vendor is. That's me. I see which service template is being used, 61. 61 is a key number. If I want to see what that means, I go here to service templates, and I see that I don't have that service template. Everything is there. I'm not filtering. Let me reiterate that. I'm not filtering, which means in this case, and that is a key thing, that this plan is not mine. What do I mean with that? This means that this plan is coming from an upstream vendor, or sorry, distributor. In all probability, this is a provider plan that has been delegated to me, and I can see that here as well. It also means I cannot alter this plan too much. I see the plan category for taxation. We're going to discuss service terms and customer classes later. And we see that this one is charged before billing period. That means that we do recurring billing, and we do that on a monthly basis. So basically we are, let me go back to this slide quickly. And one slide back, we're doing this scenario. Beginning of January, I pay. Beginning of February, I pay again. Oh, you didn't see that. Sorry. Let me redo that. Let me toggle to. So here we are. This is what we do. Before billing period, meaning beginning of January, we pay. Beginning of February, we pay. Beginning of March, we pay, etc., etc. So that is that before billing period billing model.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the difference between the last example and this one. In the last one, you said that the customer has to pay the $10 by the 36 billing
there are
periods.
two options. Yeah, there are two options. One is before subscription period. That's that one. Let me remove all ink. The before subscription period is you pay everything up front. That means that if I look at the slide there, it's this one. Before subscription period, here come on, my mouse doesn't work. Before subscription period, that's the one. means that if I subscribe for 3 years, I pay for the entire 3 years. Meaning that in a monthly billing period, the price that I set is monthly, meaning $10 a month. I have to pay upfront for 36 months, right? 3 years is 36 months. So $10 times 36 months is 360. The key word is this word that is not only underlined, but where there's an arrow, before subscription period. We also have the option of talking about a before billing period, meaning in this case, it's monthly billing, meaning that every month I pay. That means that over time, if I would buy the same plan that has a before billing period setting, it means I would pay 30 times an amount of $10. First month I pay $10, second month I pay $10, etc., 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 until I reach the 36th month and I pay $10 again. So those are, like I said, two different billing models. I always refer to them as fully prepaid before subscription period and recurring prepaid. Fully prepaid means I pay everything that I can now already know that I have to pay. I pay it before my subscription starts, $360. Before billing period simply means that every month I get an invoice of what I'm owed on a monthly basis. In this case, again, 10 months, but I get 36 invoices. So I pay 36 times an amount of $10. Does that clear up the thing?
Yes, it is clear. Thank you.
Good. And this one is of that last item, charge before billing period. So if I subscribe this plan for 3 years, I get 36 invoices of the amount that I would have to pay on a monthly basis. What more is there? The prices that I set are per billing period. What does that mean? It means that it's, in this case, a monthly price. And then there are some items about how this system renews this subscription. What we don't want is churn as a seller, as a reseller. So what I want to do is I want for business to business, I want, if the customer buys it, I want that subscription to continue until the customer says, I don't need it anymore. So I would say you always set up auto renewal. And in this case, it's on the last billing day that we also not only bill the customer, but also place a renewal order so that the customer's subscription continues. In this case, there is what we call a period default. Default, you can specify that is most of the time a monthly subscription. That has to do with all kinds of legislation here and there where, for instance, in the EU, the initial subscription period that I have for my subscription, I chose 2 years, but after that one ends and I don't do anything, they are not allowed to force me into a contract of 2 years again. They should allow me in a monthly contract so that I can cancel my subscription on a monthly basis. So that's what this line means. Then there are other items that we will come to a little bit later. Let me see, we were here. In that subscription, what more do we see? We see the subscription period. In this case, it's a simple subscription. You buy it for a month and it continues on a monthly basis. Boom, boom, boom. In this case, for the subscription itself, I don't pay anything. And I will come to that, how that works. This is the best practice now. Publication settings, is it available? It is available in the store because it's published. If I don't want this plan to be available, I just uncheck the published button or checkbox and save it. At that point, I disabled this plan. It's not for sale anymore for nobody. Where do I want this one to show up? in the infrastructure as a service services. That's the sales category. Do I want it in more categories? I can check as many boxes as I want, save it, and it will position itself in those categories in the marketplace. I can see how many subscriptions there are to this service plan. I can see which upgrade paths or downgrade paths are available. I can see what upsales I can create if there are, for instance, conflicts with other plans, like with Office 365, there are specific plans that you should not buy as the same customer because they conflict. And then we have the actual content of the plan. Remember the recipe. Remember the recipe and the end product. In this case, what do I get? I have a minimum amount of one WordPress server, also a maximum amount of one WordPress server. And for that WordPress server, I'm paying 25 euros a month. So my monthly fee for this plan is not 0 as it's shown here, but is $25 because I receive a minimum amount of one WordPress server inside my subscription. In this case, it's logical because it's a server, it's not a service. So for one server, I can host multiple websites. So it should be enough to have one server where I can host multiple websites on it. But I'm paying 25 euros a month for that. This is, at this moment, the way we do best practices. We set a 0 price to the product itself. I always compare it to the service plan is a box. And if I go shopping and at the start of the store, there's this huge container of empty boxes, I take a box out. I go through the store. If I don't put anything in that box, I can probably walk out of that store with an empty box, and I don't have to pay for that. I don't have anything to make dinner with, or to eat, or to wash my clothes with, but I have an empty box, which is nice if you have cats, but that's all there is to it. However, if you take that box and you go through that store and you put in the rice, you put in the shrimps, etc., you pay for the rice, you pay for the shrimps when you go to checkout. And then you walk out the door with a box with those 2 ingredients in. That is how we want to configure our products nowadays. So the box itself is free, but what we put in the box, and there could be a minimum. Hey, if you take this box, at least you have to put in the rice. Okay, I'm paying for the rice. We don't use included anymore. That is actually the old way of doing business. We used to do that. Now we don't do that anymore. That has a reason. And of course, in this case, it's logical to set a maximum. There could be a reason to not have a maximum. In that case, you can put a -1. If I do a mass edit, cancel, let's go here. I can edit this. And here at the bottom, you will see those amounts, included, maximum, minimum. Can I change it? No, why not? Like I said, this is not my plan. I can only change a limited number of items. If I were able to change this at provider level, the maximum unit, I could put a -1 there, which is unlimited. There we go. So if somebody orders this, he pays $25 for this specific product. For Office 365, Microsoft has its own rules and regulation about the maximum amount of specific resources in specific service plans. So that maximum amount will vary. Sometimes it's unlimited. for the business plans, I think it's about 300 or something like that. So that is why we have an included amount. And it would not surprise me if that included amount over time is going to disappear, because it's old. It's an old configuration setting. The minimum amount is key, and the maximum amount is key. This is a plan where we have only one resource in it. If I would go to another item, let me see. What is this one? Here we have multiple resources in it. Again, we've got, and this is wrongly configured. We have a minimum amount, we've got a minimum amount, we've got maximum amounts, and we've got included amounts. It's either or. And there are some prices involved in this one. So a couple of possible. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, because it's about what we're saying. If you go ahead, I don't think it makes sense, my question. Two things. First of all, the included amount is different from the minimum amount.
Yeah, and this one, like I said, this is configured wrong. This is configured wrong. This is.
I don't know why you're saying it's wrong, because bear with me here. I have the minimum amount. I mean, my minimum amount is 1.
The thing is, we're talking about modern configuration versus old configuration. Modern configuration should just say included amount should always be 0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, I don't agree with that, because I do believe that some products need an included amount. I'm not going there. I'll not discuss this one anyways. Let's move to the other question then.
Yeah, the thing is, the thing is that in your scenario, because you are using the platform for a long time already, you might have products where included has been set, because they are products that are on the platform already for a longer time. And it used to be our best practice to have an included amount and the maximum amount where the minimum amount was 0. And then we would set a price for the subscription period. So basically the $20 for a month or the $300 for a year would be for these resources. So that would be for 1 data storage and 1 product license. For 10 product licenses. Like I said, if I would have known that this product was configured this way, I would not have used it, because this is, like I said, not configured the way we should do it.
I know I know you're talking about what's new, but I'm not going to discuss this, because I see situations nowadays. I'm not talking about old things. I agree. Most times this is the situation we have, that there are exceptions where you need to include some things, otherwise the product doesn't make sense. Okay, but anyways, I'm not going to, when I'm selling a circuit, if I'm selling a circuit, I need a port A and a port B, so it needs to be included. So there are situations where the included is needed, but I'm not going there, not right now. I'll just change my question to the other one I have. Okay. And we'll discuss that further later. We were talking before about the Microsoft licenses, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, yes, we have a limitation for business for 300, but the problem is it's not 300 for plan, for resource. It's like this. I have business standard, business basic, and there is another business I forgot right now. Well, there are 3 business types of license. Yes, but the thing is, it's 300 over all of those 3.
Yeah.
It's not 300 for each. And I don't know, but is there a new configuration for me to say, okay, over these 3 subscriptions, I can have at most 300?
No, that is still a limitation of our platform. We are working on it, but it's still a limitation. Yes, we realize it's there, but at this moment, we're not able to do that.
Yeah, I was just asking because maybe in the version 21 we had that, because I know
not
that
yet.
we
Not
don't
yet.
have it.
We're working on that one indeed. And I'm not going to I do not know if this is in the next version or in a future version of PLM, but we are working on it. But we have limitations in the way we handle those subscriptions, because for the platform so far, a subscription is a closed entity. So the moment we are going to have to work across subscriptions, we have to basically redesign how the platform works with the subscriptions, and that makes it a hard thing.
Yeah, I agree. I understood. Okay.
Yep.
You could do that by plan category. Put a limit on the plan categories or something like this. But I also would think that would be a hard way to treat it. Anyways, thank you for your answer.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So we have all those tabs, different meaning. So the process of, let me toggle to PowerPoint. The process for creation of service plan are, I would almost say, are two-faced now. One is the classic way of doing things. The classic way of doing things is go into that classic panel and go through the create service plan wizard. It would look something like add a new service plan and basically take a generic one, because we don't talk about domain registration and we don't talk about web hosting. This is shared hosting, is website. So it's a generic service plan, and then follow the steps. It's 5 steps where you fill out the details, where we have the name that is visible in the marketplace. We select the correct service template from a pop-up window. We put it somewhere in a plan category. Remember, plan categories for taxation. What service terms do we have? What happens at the end of the subscription lifecycle? How long does a customer have access to his subscription? Then we've got a short description and a detailed description, again showing, and there are more fields. One of them is the billing model. The 3 we have, right? And then we've got a specific one for AWS and Azure, external rating. But Office 365, Microsoft 365 plans are either of these 3. Most plans are either of these 3. The prices that I'm going to set, are these per billing period, per month, for instance, or are these per month? That's a strange thought. The thing is that this setting here, set recurring prices per, are combined with this one. So we have now set it to monthly, in which case it doesn't matter what I do here. However, if we set prices, set a billing period quarterly, are the prices that I put in the fields in the next couple of steps in this wizard, are these quarterly prices, which means that I personally have to do the math, or are these monthly prices, in which scenario the system will do the math? The advantage of setting monthly prices is that I can switch all kinds of scenarios between, is this a billing period? We only bill twice a year for this product. And the system will do the math about that change. Oh no, we're going back to monthly. The system again will do the math. And I prefer this one over the price per billing period. And there are some exception settings that I will cover later. So that is the first one. It's just follow the wizard. The first page is general information and billing terms. Go on, billing terms. General information, name, etc., and then billing terms. Then we get to pricing and periods. What are the subscription contract lengths that you offer? Do we offer for monthly, yearly, 2 yearly, 3 yearly, etc., etc., or do we do only monthly or only yearly? That's a choice. What would the box cost if I do a yearly subscription? Because that's the price of the box that I set in that step. What are the update options? Can I update from bronze to silver to gold? What are the resource rates? And this is where we actually set the content of that box, the mandatory content of that box. In the old configuration ways, we would set an included amount. And then, of course, the pricing should have been adapted to that included amount. Now we say there is a minimum amount. So nothing is included, so the box is free, but if you take this box, somebody will already put in the rice and the shrimp. Minimum one for both. And then that package of rice will cost you $2, and the shrimp will cost you $5. Meaning that if I take that box and I walk through the store to the register, I end up having 1 box of rice, 1 package of shrimps, and I have to pay $7. Another thing you can do is you can do upsell. Do you want me or the store to cook you that paella? That's an add-on service that I offer. You go through the store, you pick it up, and then you can either take it home, where you cook your own paella, or there is an upsell option where you go to that counter where I will cook with your ingredients. I will cook your paella, for instance, and then we've got a service plan. Be aware that upsell is an upsell. It's an individual product plan. So it's an add-on on top of it. It's not part of the original service plan. It's just an upsell. So before creating a service plan, you have to think about a couple of things. First one is general information. Second one is billing terms. And the third one is, how would your product look like eventually? What's in it? According to the wizard, you start with the general information. From my perspective, I would almost say that I want to start here, on paper at least. I want to think about, what am I offering in this case? Because my description that I'm going to put in depends on what I'm selling to you. Again, here you see it's included a minimum. They're the same. I love this one. Here you see a -1. So there is something unlimited. It's included unlimited.
Como eu já falei 85 vezes.
I'm not sure how you want to do that, but that's a different thing. So you start with this one. This is let's say a E5 plan. So I would put in my description now, in the name, Microsoft 365 E5 single license or something like that. Put that same thing in the short summary and put it maybe a more detailed description in that field. And I decide, how am I going to sell this? And there is I wouldn't say a misconception, but there is always a discussion here. Do you want to align with what Microsoft is offering? And that sounds a little bit strange, but what I mean with that is, if Microsoft wants you to sell on a monthly basis, you can still charge the customer everything up front. You cash the money, everything up front, and then you pay Microsoft on a monthly basis. That's still an option. Of course, most people would align with what the vendor says, making life easier and making it more practical to align your invoices with what the customer has paid. But it is still a possibility. Our plan does not, or our platform does not force you to align with Microsoft. If Microsoft wants you to do monthly prepaid, you can still do monthly postpaid if you want to. It means that you run a little bit of a risk, namely that month of payment, but it's an option. It's an option you can still offer. And it's a business decision, not a decision from Microsoft. Let me get rid of that arrow. Oh, I'm going back in time. Sorry, I need to go further. So before I continue, what questions do you have? I see a chat.
I already discussed it. Well, this one.
Okay, very good. Yeah, very good. For the rest, what can we do? We can make subscriptions expandable. Of course, all those things are within the limitations of what the vendor allows me. And one example was just given by Ana Paula about Microsoft saying a maximum is 300. And there has been a time where also we thought that the maximum was on a per subscription basis, but it's actually not. There is a 300 maximum on the business plans within a tenant. At this moment, since we did not realize it, it's a limitation. We're working on it. But that simply, it will mean that I can allow my customer to buy extra licenses within a subscription. And of course, there are workarounds that we can use and say, okay, if you have already got a business standard, you cannot buy business premium or business ultimate. In that case, the 300 maximum stays within the tenant. We can limit out those other products. On the other hand, it's not what you want, because if the customer needs 10 seats of business ultimate, he should be able to buy those, right? There are ways of doing this to work around it. I'm not happy with what is there, but we cannot work around those limitations of the platform. That's a simple thing. Another thing, we can bundle resources. Resources that always should go together. And in the past, I used an example of SSL. An SSL website and SSL functionality, most people will come up with the fact that you need a certificate for that. What not everybody knows is that for SSL, pure and sec SSL, not TLS, SSL, you also need a dedicated IP address. So to prevent customers of buying an SSL certificate and then coming back to me and say, hey, it doesn't work. And then I, as support engineer, have to tell them that they have to buy an IP address, a dedicated IP address for their website, which will cost them more money. I don't want to do that. So what I can do is I can bundle what we would call specific resources. We call that a composite resource. So if the customer wants to buy, let's say, SSL security, that's one of my resource rates. And if they buy SSL security, what I'm actually provisioning for them is a dedicated IP address and an SSL certificate. So it always works. You can bundle those items there. This is more or less the old way of making your products foolproof. It still works in the new way. The only downside is we are for the new way of working, we're going away from the classic panel, and composite resources can only be created in the classic panel. So you have to adapt something. I see a hand up. I don't see a hand up anymore. Okay.
No, sorry, it's me again. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
I was unmuting myself, and instead of unmuting myself, I just put the hand up. So
Yeah.
a quick question.
Tell me.
I don't recall it. I'm not able to edit the composite resource, right? I cannot, once it's created, I cannot add or exclude anything from that, isn't it? Or I'm remembering it wrong.
As far as I know, you can always change it.
Even when it's created, even within a plan with active subscriptions,
well,
I remember I had some.
There might be a limitation if there are already subscriptions to it, because the system will see that there is a subscription to that composite resource. If you take out an item, it will not work. I think that you can edit them in regards to adding resources. I doubt whether you can remove resources, though.
Okay, got it. Thank you. No, just
you're welcome.
Yes, it's just that I have a situation here that I might be able to use this one. I forgot about this one. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And another thing we can do is what we call tiered prices. Tiered pricing is for the first 10 items, for the first 10 licenses, for instance, you pay $10. For the second, let me go back to my slide deck. For the second tier, for the second 10 licenses, you pay $9, etc., etc. You can set those as well. This is done on a resource by resource basis. The new way of working, of creating service plans, is a UX1 way of working. Let me go to my dashboard, and I have a portfolio here. And in my portfolio, we are looking at Product Lifecycle Manager. And Product Lifecycle Manager allows me to import products from our Connect fulfillment platform. That part will generate the resources. It will generate what we call a service template or a product line. Like I said, I cannot show it here in this one. I need to find myself an environment where I have provider access. So I'm not sure where I can find that one, and I hope to have it tomorrow. I've been searching until, let's say, 5 minutes before this training, and I'm going to look at our dev team if they have a test environment for me for the remainder of the training. That's one thing. So this will automatically generate. I'm importing the product, and that would automatically generate for me the resources as well as the service template. And then we have what we call a PPR file. Product. I'm not sure what the rest stands for. If you import that product PR file, it will generate the plans. I have an example of a PPR. Let me pull it up. Where are you? Here we are. There it is. Where I define which resources there are, where I define which service plans are available. And in those service plans, what plan category they are in, and what other information there is, the billing period, the duration, the price period, and how to charge. Is this charge before a subscription period or charge before a billing period, auto renewing, sales categories that this product is in. Here you see that this product is in 3 sales categories. And I have some upgrade paths defined. And in my resource rates, I see that for the service plan, managed services standard, here we have it, managed services standard, this plan. I see that there is a resource in there that's called standard services. We also have a managed services gold plan, where the resource gold service is in there with its respective amounts. You see, there is no included amounts anymore. And that's why I said this is going to change, and I'm probably because of the history, it won't go away from the UI, from the platform, but it's going away as a usable unit. And we set amounts in there with their respective maximum. So in this plan, the standard services has a minimum amount of 1 and a maximum amount of unlimited. In this gold plan, we've got gold services, same amounts. And then we've got one service plan, managed services mixed, where both of those resources are in there with a minimum of 1 and an amount of unlimited. That means that if I buy the managed services standard, I cannot get the gold resource because it's not in that plan set up. If I have the gold services, I cannot get a standard resource because it's not included. If I want to be able to have both, I have to buy this plan called managed services mixed, where both of them are there. And for each of those resources, I get at least 1, and then I can buy extras. Up till how many? Up till unlimited. So that is how we create things nowadays. This means that this plan is now available. It's not enabled yet, and it does not have any pricing. So from that perspective, we have a 3-step process. First, we import the product through PLM, Product Lifecycle Manager. That means we create resources and service template, or product line as it is called in PLM. Then we go and import the PPR file. That creates the plans without any pricing. And why am I saying this? Because the next thing will make sure that the price is set. We call it product inventory. And product inventory is nothing more than making sure that you have a list of products that your account sells, and each product is a resource rate, not a resource rate, with its own specific MPN. So in my Excel sheet, where are you? Why are you not showing? That one. There we go. The 2 resources that I will have is gold services and standard services. Nothing more, nothing less. That they are set up within different plans is, in this case, for pricing not relevant. But let's say I'm charging $5 for standard services and $10 for gold services. I want everywhere where that standard service is set up as a resource rate in the plan, I want to charge $5 for it. If I set $10 for gold services, everywhere where that product, where that resource is added to a service plan, I want to charge $10 for it. And that's what the product inventory does. It happens through, I would almost say, the standard management tool for every large enterprise, Excel. Because what I do is I go to product inventory in my control panel, and I have that one in, where is it? Price management. It's called price management at the moment. This is margins and markups. We're looking for something else. Portfolio prices. Here we have it. I can export it to Excel. I see the products. I see the vendor ID, see the MPN. I see billing periods. I see the current price levels, current prices, margins, costs, etc., as well as the billing model of each of those resources and products. Like I said, I can do this in UX1. I can also do it in the classic panel. Here we have our prices. If you compare those two lists, it will be the same. I see billing periods, I see the billing model, I see the cost, I see the price, etc., etc. If I now export this file, I can select any item. I can also split this up. Let's say somebody's responsible for Top Desk, somebody else is responsible for Google Inc. I can export that file in different chunks. So let's say I've got the Top Desk here. I want to export Top Desk, or I want to export Google Inc. And you see, not all of them have a nice name. Some of them just have a vendor ID. That depends on how it is configured on the other side of the fence, on the Connect side. Let's do everything. Let's be silly. If I leave it blank, I get everything. Of course, I get a date, I get a time, and let me export it to my item here. Let's pull it up, commerce demo files. Here we have it. This is the file. And the structure of the file, this is fairly simple, right? This is the date of today. So the moment I export it, it will automatically make sure that there is a date added to the file. Price list also speaks for itself. And this first item, maybe it's not readable, but it's the account ID of the reseller. So this is my price file for those files. So this is where I can see, or I can set my prices for these resources, whereas somebody else might set different prices for those resources. Oh, let's open it. Here we are. And we get a nice, huge file. There we go. We see billing models in there. We see units of measures. We see lower limits. We see currencies. We see cost. We see pricing. And now I can go in and change those prices to whatever I want my price to be. And after that, save it. And upload it again. In this case, I don't have the privilege to do that, making sure that I don't break things. Tomorrow I will try, or sorry, on Wednesday, I will try to do a little demo of this that I have better prepared, but that will work and show you the results. This has to do with the fact that this is a demonstration for our CB SaaS environment where, let's say, the provider will set the pricing. I can export it, change the price, send it to the CB SaaS team, and they will upload it. The downside of this, and that is why we changed that way of working, and let me go to that, where is it? Let me go to the first page and let me go to my WordPress server. What it will change is this price, the recurring fee only. So I might have made it 30. The reason why we want empties is because if we only have a minimum amount with nothing included, the fact that this one changes to $30 or 30 euros makes that the next customer that buys it will pay 30 euros for that subscription. we don't change this one. So if there is something included, let's say there's one included and we would have set 25 here. And let me take that example in that case. We have it here on their Magento server, if I'm correct. Control 0. Subscription periods. No, it wasn't the Magento. Magento is also configured correct. It was something on page 2. Which one was it? Something, one of these, I think. Yeah, here we have it. So, oh, this is cool. Here you only get anything. Which one did I take? Migration services. Deldum, that's the one. Deldum was it. Okay, so we have a price here of two. Let's only use the 1 month subscription. So I'm checking the box here. Checking the box here. So the $20. Let's say the resource rate changed. 10 units of 2, 1 unit of $10 is included. From my perspective, that is already $30 that you pay. 10 for this one. And 10 times 2 is 20. So $30. That means that if I subscribe to this and just this, I'm already paying too little for the subscription because I'm only paying 20 instead of 30 that I should pay. But these prices won't change. Even if these do, this one goes, let's say, to 15, this one goes to 3. These subscription prices will not change. So I have to go in and manually change those prices as well, which is error prone. You forget about that. That is why we reverted to that new best practice. We don't include anything. This is all 0. We have minimum amounts. And if that minimum amount needs to be 1 for the data storage and 10 for the product licenses, why not put a minimum 1 here and a minimum of 10 there and charge that based on the resource rate price instead of the box price? That's why we changed that. And it all has to do with that thing called product inventory. So what, I did that demo already. What questions do you have so far?
Hello, I have one
tell me.
easy question.
Tell me.
I saw how you got to the product inventory here in the classic panel, but I was not able to see how you got to the price menu because mine doesn't have it. The price menu in the classic panel.
Yeah. I think that this is one of the few things that is different between version 21 and version 20.5. Let me show you where I went so you can see. I'm going to, this is my entry point. Then I go to portfolio.
Okay.
And here I have my products and I have my prices.
Yeah, I have that in Wax1, I believe. Let me check here. Portfolio. Oh, I do not have prices here. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that could be the difference between 20.x and 21.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, got it. It's just that because in the 20 point something, we do have the, here in the classic panel, we do have the
it's there
product
already.
Inventory. The product inventory is here. So I was able to get some useful information here too, but we do not have the prices one. I was looking for it. Thank you. That's my only question. Yeah, I'm just thank you. My only question.
You're welcome. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm going to stop the recording. So we have a, if it allows me that, we have a recording for this one. Let's take, it's 4 o'clock now, we're 3 hours in. Let's take a 10-minute break.